Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I'm taking a first look at the Sony 16 to 35mm G Master Gen 2. So this Mark II lens is 20% smaller than the previous generation and promises to outperform it. And while that may not seem like a game-changing feature, I assure you it absolutely is. It retails for $21.99 US, and again, the entire premise is that if you have an incredibly high-res camera from Sony, especially something like the A7CR, and you want to keep things lightweight but do not want to sacrifice quality, which is what the entire A7C lineup is all about, this may be the perfect lens to pick up with it. Now, bear in mind, this may be the perfect lens for you for any of your Sony bodies that you currently own or are prospectively buying, just because the 16 to 35 range, for me, it's my favorite. I'm presently shooting on Sony 16 to 35 f4 power zoom. It's a great piece of glass. It's approximately half the price of this guy, but again, this is faster at f2.8, and this promises to be better in pretty much every single way, every characteristic than what I'm shooting on now. And one of the things that held me back from the first gen 16 to 35 G Master was simply its size and weight. This, on the other hand, now has my attention. And when I first sat in the virtual presser for this and saw it, I heard, the laughter in reiterating that it's 20% lighter and like that is the game-changing feature. But even though I may have been muted, I can tell you right now, I completely agreed, even if some people were scoffing at this. And I don't mean in the actual presser, but I mean in the world when this was announced. So let's go over the hardware, your autofocus switch right there, your customizable buttons on the top and side. If you want to hold focus, you can program those. Of course, your focus ring, your zoom ring, as you can see, it is a pumper. Then our aperture ring right here, which I think this just came out, is locked. You can see we have an iris lock right there reminding you that this is a video lens as well. Don't you forget it. And then we also have a physical click switch so that if you prefer to not have to look at your aperture, but rather, know where you are based on clicks, you've got it. This is not a new feature or element to Sony Glass, but something I still want to point out. So let's go ahead and mount this on the camera that it was sent in conjunction with, which is the A7C Mark II, not the R. I do think this is going to be beautiful on pretty much any Sony camera you mount it on. I'm very excited to see how it performs on my A1 and even on my FX3 here in the studio, because if it really clobbers the 16 to 35 power zoom f4 that I'm using, you better believe it's going to quickly make its way to my short list because, well, autofocus matters to me. So there it is, fit and finish on the A7C II. And I have to say, even though the A7C is a pound and this lens is, well, virtually the exact same weight, it has pretty good balance. But there's no question this is going to be even more balanced on a body like, again, my A1 or the A7R5, something with a little more heft. But I could see how this might be a perfect lens, again, for this or the A7CR, just because I don't know if you'll ever have to take it off. I mean, that really depends on what you plan on shooting and, the type of photography and videography that you partake in. But I know that, again, for me personally, the 16 to 35 has always been the way to go. Now that we have a smaller, lighter, sharper copy that happens to, again, outperform everything else on the market from what I've seen, well, making it lighter, well, that was a pretty easy way to improve on what was already the best performer, one of the best performers in the business. So I'm very excited to test this out. Again, I'll be testing it on the A7C II that you see here, my FX3, and the A1. And of course, with Sony's recently announced A9 Mark III, I mean, the world is your oyster, so every lens in their lineup is going to inherently improve. Stabilization will be interesting to see how, it is on this as well. Also want to point out Sony's built into this little clever release button on the lens hood now for filters. I haven't tested it, but that's another interesting addition. So cool stuff from Sony. Already really intrigued by the A7C2 and A7CR, but throw a lens like this into the studio and, well, you've really got my attention because this is drool worthy for me. But that rounds things out. Again, really excited to test this piece of glass out and see how well it performs across the board. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe and please stay safe. Later.